Never before in the 109 years history of Nigeria, that is from 1914 to 2023, had the judiciary faced a more gigantic task to prove its independence as it was in 2023. From judgment bordering on election petition and the appointment of justices to the Supreme Court, among other issues. Seen as the last hope of the common man, the judiciary has been commended and criticized at various times depending on who benefits from some of the verdicts coming out from the court. And in the last year, such criticism seemed to be loudest, especially as it concerned some of the controversial verdicts from the court on election matters. Recall that last year, a large billboard was erected in the Federal Capital Territory ahead then of the tribunal judgment of the petition challenging the victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The billboard had a bold picture of the gravel symbolizing the judiciary and the inscription that read, "All eyes on the judiciary." But whether all eyes on the judiciary or not, the truth remains that in the year 2023, Nigerians believe the judiciary was at its lowest ebb in decades, prompting many to call for true reforms of the third arm of government. Now the big question and the big story for today, with more judgment to come on account of Supreme Court decision on governorship election, would there not be further doubts from Nigerians about the judiciary, or rather reinforce the belief that the judiciary is indeed the hope of the common man and seem to be incorruptible and just? Well, a look at the judiciary and the call for reforms is what this edition of the big story is all about. And that is the judiciary in focus calls for reform in 2024. And that's what we're looking at today as a major on the big story. We're looking at the judiciary in focus as we try to make sense about some of the issues that will definitely take place this year, as many Nigerians call for reforms, knowing what played out last year and the belief or doubt of many about the independence of the third arm of government, and that is the judiciary. But anyway, that's what we're having as a major one today on the big story. And to truly help us talk about this, I'm being joined right here in the studio by no other but a legal practitioner. And we're talking about Barrister Emmanuel Erere. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, my brother. Thank you.
And also joining us via phone all the way from Abuja is no other person but Franklin Osea, Esquire. He's a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. He's joining us all the way from Abuja. Let's see if we have him already. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, welcome to it, Barrister Franklin Osea. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And I rather want to start with you, Franklin Osea. Before we look at what direction many will love the judiciary to go this year to help strengthen the belief of Nigerians in the third arm of government, let's first look at last year and the assertion that there was this disconnect between the judiciary and the people, maybe on account of some of the judgments as it concerns what played out last year. So let's look at that assertion first, that there's this disconnect, or there was this disconnect between the judiciary and also the people. And a follow-up question to that, for you, what will be the biggest story as it concerns the judiciary in 2023?
Okay, thank you very much, Bubedia. So we are all aware that preceding the 2023 presidential election tribunal case, Nigerians were already very disenchanted with our judiciary. There is this huge public perception that has gone down south about the Nigerian judiciary. There's a huge trust deficit on the part of Nigerians with respect to offerings from our judges. So this trust deficit, huge as it were, has been there. And then you see that playing out when this has surfaced in Abuja and some other states.
Okay.
Or mantra, if you will, we state that all eyes on the judiciary.
Yes.
We saw this hashtag all over social media, huge billboards in Abuja and some other states. And then the climax of it was when the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria suspended some of its top officials over what they described as an attempt to blackmail the judiciary. That the officers did not do their due diligence, that there was some violation of duty, that they ought not to have approved such an advertisement. But again, a section of Nigerian lawyers, including human rights activists, countered that position to say that the suspension of top officials of the Nigerian Regulatory Council over the approval of the All Eyes on the Judiciary Act was a violation of their fundamental right to freedom of expression. Now, so we have two arguments. But my opinion will be, and I know that perhaps this is an issue that will be resolved also by the courts, and which is a question of, though we say that the right to freedom of expression can be discountenanced because the council deems it as offending public policy, because the only section of the Constitution, section 45, is specific, that allows an obviation of a fundamental right. It's only section 45, which says that if your fundamental right is going to be, the expression of that right has limits. And that section is just to limit fundamental rights so that it doesn't go overboard, it doesn't become excessive. If the expression of your fundamental right is going to offend public policy, it's going to affect public defense, and also maybe public right, health or morality, that fundamental right will remain equal. And so, this is the argument. Do we say that that advert offends section 45
of the Constitution?
The matter that will be
but Franklin Osia, well, I also want to bring you, hello, I'll just plead with you to hold on. I want to also bring you...
Trust deficit about judiciary...
Hello, Barrister Franklin Osia.
Because of inconsistency in the judgment.
Oh, okay, well, you said that. I'll plead with you to hold on. I'll plead with you to hold on. Can you hear me?
With respect to election cases.
Well, I doubt if you can truly hear me. But Barrister Franklin Osia, I'll plead with you to hold on. Because I want to bring you back to the question I asked you initially.
Of the law. Once the law is no more certain, that is a real invitation to anarchy.
Okay, well, Barrister Franklin Osia, I'll plead with you to hold on. If my PD is there, it looks as if he's not getting to hear me. Hello, Barrister Franklin Osia. Well, it looks as if we're having this connection. I'll plead with my PD to put a pause there, and I'll come back to him because we really need to ask him some questions. Let me come to you now, Barrister Emmanuel Oriri, and throw a similar question to you. You heard what he said. That great disconnect was more like a build-up before the general elections in 2023 and the verdict, especially as it concerns the tribunal. But for you, what would you feel is the biggest story as it concerns the judiciary in 2023?
Well, thank you very much for that very big question. The judiciary in focus in 2023, with regards to electoral matters, because we have to be very, very precise.
Okay.
When we talk about the judiciary in focus, we are treating a particular subject matter,
yes,
as it has to do with elections, which disputes have arisen and parties have approached the courts for resolution of such disputes. Now, before the commencement of any action in court, there has been this perception that some judgments would be compromised.
That's the belief Nigerians
have. That's the belief, yes.
Even before the verdict.
I know, and we should be very careful with the political space. Because politicians can be very, very funny. So most times when, like my learned colleague was saying about the all eyes of the judiciary, Masra and all that stuff, if you look at it critically or make an in-depth investigation, you'll find out that those are the ideas of some desperate politicians to put the judiciary
on the spotlight.
That does not mean that, yes, there is no element of truth with respect to compromising judgments. Because you and I know that it is humans that man the bench that are going to decide on all the disputes presented before them. But however, every Nigerian judge that have been appointed first after taking his oath of office to do justice to both parties that are before it. Then two, because election petition matters are sui generis, they're of a special kind, they appoint some judges specifically
on account of such cases.
On account of such cases, to determine them within a time frame of which they've done their parts, and some of them have withdrawn for their assignments, apart from the Supreme Court, who is at the last stage of determining governorship disputes.
Yeah, we'll come to all of that.
Now, if at the end of the day, yes, we must have parties that are not satisfied with the outcome of a decision.
In any case.
In any case. So it's not particular or peculiar to election matters. But because election matters, this period has been electoral period, in fact, particularly 2023, the build up to the general election, after the election petition and all that. That is why the judiciary have been on the spotlight. A lot of, in fact, it's so painful that the judges are put in a place that they can't speak, despite all these accusations here and there. I'm not saying that some are not true, and some are true, but when you don't have proof to those allegations,
it becomes speculative, disturbing to them.
Yes, more disturbing to them. But we as legal practitioners, we are very, very careful when we make some comments about the judicial arm of government, which is seen as the last hope of the common man. Because I believe that after this exercise, before the judiciary will come into a spotlight with respect to election matters, and maybe other states who are yet to do their elections, majorly by 2027. So I believe the judiciary, the heads of the courts, would have sat down to do a review
of some of the judgments.
I believe that is ongoing.
Okay, now, if that's the case, many would say, the judiciary took the spotlight on account of election matters greatly last year. That's one of the major talking points of the judiciary last year. But that question still remains that borders Nigeria. Because you're now saying the judges don't even have an avenue to air their own talk part of the divide and the discourse. But that question is still paramount, and it's also being asked. And funny enough, someone asked it last year, and the question is, should the court determine who governs us, or rather, the ballot box should be allowed to do so? And former President Goodluck Jonathan raised or re-echoed such feelings of Nigerians. Because if we're now going to put the judiciary in that bad light, and that's why Nigerians are now having great mistrust of the judiciary, should we even allow them decide who governs us, or rather let's just stick with the ballot box? If we're not satisfied with the previous election, we take it back to the field, do these elections rather than going to the courts, and the courts making decision on account of millions of Nigerians. And sometimes that decision, many will argue, does not follow how the elections went. So let's look at that ground.
Well, if you say the courts, based on popular opinion, that they should be excluded
from election matters,
from electoral matters, you are indirectly saying that we are giving an invitation to anarchy. Now, why am I saying this? First and foremost, what Nigerians should be saying is that what role did the electoral umpire play in all this? Because if having voted billions of naira to conduct an exercise, electorates went to the field to cast their votes for candidates of their choice. At the end of the exercise, results were collated and announced. Party agents signed those election results. There were areas where they said even the security operatives failed on their parts, because I wasn't there. But these are some of the reports we got from civil society organizations and other observers who actually observed this just concluded 2023 general elections. Now, if we are to follow all these reports by the election observers and even the electorates, who are we to blame? Is it the courts or the electoral umpire? Okay. Who have been voted, given a lot of resources to conduct a free, fair, and credible elections? That is a major point of contact. The first person you have to hold accountable. Now, the judicial process now made this more easier. Now, in as much as you are dissatisfied we'll give you with the decision of the electoral empire at the end of the day. Because ironically, you will see some persons who did not even have vote, they will say they are not satisfied. you know, and it is normal. That is where you have an arm of government saddled with the responsibility to resolving disputes between parties. So, okay, no problem. If you are not satisfied with the exercise, go to the courts.
But that was another general mantra last year.
The courts would address your issues, present them with cogent and verifiable evidence. You don't just go to the court and start. It's not a town hall meeting. It is a place that has been established by law under the Constitution Section 6 to resolve disputes and also interpret what has been enacted by the legislature. So the court will not do any magic. So if you are coming to court on a grounds of an election that was conducted that you are not satisfied with the outcome of the election, the law provides for various grounds upon which you present your petition. What the court is expected to do, as vetted by law, is to look at the grounds, and if there are evidence to substantiate such grounds, and the court is convinced that based on what you presented before them, there is a reason to give you or give you redress.
Can some of these judgments can't they err in most of these judgments? Because that's where they come to the lie.
No, the truth of the matter, like I told you earlier on in our discussion, that the judges are humans. That does not mean that when a judgment is given, it is 100% perfect.
Okay, and that's why you take it up to the Supreme Court.
Good. So they take it up to the next level, a higher court, to review. Where are the area, the lapses that you are basing your complaint as an appellant, in this case, that you are dissatisfied with? So when you go up, they have different panels, because if panel 1, the lower court, of course, as the specialty of election matters, you have 3 judges.
Yes.
You have the chairman and 2 members at the tribunal.
Yes.
When you go up to the court of appeal, you still have 3 members.
Okay.
Depends on the election conducted. If it's presidential, you have 5 members.
Okay.
If it's House of Assembly or National Assembly, you have 3 members. Okay. So if the 3 members upstairs, which is the last bus stop for National Assembly election, I say no. The judgment of the lower courts, which you have complained,
was upheld or denied.
And they upheld it, saying that there is no reasonable grounds upon which you came to meet us. We sustain or we uphold the judgment. Good or fine. You can't go anywhere outside there. But if for the governorship and the presidential, which have been concluded, that the governorship, some are still waiting. Now they go further. And the Supreme Court, after the Court of Appeal, which is will be manned by 7 judges. 5 judges. I said, no. They will see reasons why this judgment should be set aside.
Okay.
Based on your complaint and based on sufficient proofs. Evidence. Yeah, so if that is not done, because the court is not a magician, they work with facts and evidence
and not speculation.
And not speculation.
Okay, let's see if we bring Barrister Franklin Osia into it. We had issues with those connections. You could barely hear us. Hello, Barrister Franklin Osia. Hello. Okay, it looks as if we're still having issues with that connection. We'll plead with you to hold on. Just as much as we'll plead with you, Barrister Emmanuel Eriri. We need to go on a break now. But when we come back, we'll continue our discussion looking at the judiciary. And some of the decisions taken last year that many Nigerians, would say they are not truly happy with, or rather that growing mistrust of the judiciary by Nigerians. And also look at some of the cases that will definitely come. In the next 2 months, we'll be having conclusion, especially as it concerns some governorship cases, and indeed many eyes will definitely be on the judiciary. Let's go on a break.